Welcome back to Askewed Reviews. And this week I'm doing Father's Day films. So today I'm doing the 2017 movie Daddy's Home 2. Here is your trivia question for today. What movie does everyone go to see during the snowstorm at the end of the film? The answer will be at the end of this episode. So some time has passed since the events of the first film. But as things seem to be going, both Brad and Dusty are doing really well as co parents of Dylan and Megan. As for the relationships of the parents, things also seem to be going well for both Brad and Sarah and for Dusty and Karen. What isn't going well is the relationship between Dusty and Adriana, as so far he doesn't seem to be able to connect with her at all. And of course, Roger, her biological father, is giving Dusty as much of a hard time as he did Brad in the last film. So Brad and Dusty decide that the best thing for their families is to have a joint Christmas this year so that everyone can spend it together. Now, along with these two families, there seems to be two other individuals that'll be joining them for Christmas. So, first there's Kurt. He is Dusty's father, and he apparently is where Dusty got all of his bad habits from. And then, secondly, there's Don, who's Brad's father, and he and Brad seem to have a very close relationship. So Kurt decides to rent out a cabin for the week leading up to Christmas. During this little vacation, a lot of things seem to come bubbling to the surface for Brad, Dusty, Sarah, Kurt, and Don. So by the time it is Christmas, will this family be doing better off? Or will this whole adventure end in a disaster? So, just like the previous film, this one is also directed by Sean Anders. Also, he makes a brief cameo as the piano player at the Improv Club. Luckily, both Will Ferrell and Mark Wahlberg came back to reprise their roles of Brad and Dusty. Now, we do have some new faces this time around. You have Kurt, who is Dusty's father and is played by Mel Gibson, but Gibson wasn't the only actor up for the role. There was also Sylvester Stallone, Bruce Willis, Harrison Ford, Kurt Russell, Dennis Quaid, Tim Allen, and Robert De Niro. We also have Don, who is Brad's father, who is perfectly played by John Lithgow. Other actors that were also up for the role of Don were Steve Martin, Dan Aykroyd, Kelsey Grammer, and Chevy Chase. If you didn't know this, Mel Gibson is only 15 years older than Mark Wahlberg, and John Lithgow is 22 years older than Will Ferrell. Some of the returning cast members for this sequel are Linda Cardellini, all three kids, Owen Vaccaro, Scarlett Estevez, and Didi Costine, Alessandra Ambrosio, John Cena, and Bill Burr. There's also two new faces. They have the real Sully Sullenberger, and even though it's just a cardboard cutout and his voice, Liam Neeson. There's a really funny throwback to the first film that you may or may not have noticed, but during the thermostat scene, only Dusty is the one not sweating. And as we discover in the first film, it's very difficult for Dusty to start sweating. This time around, the movie was entirely filmed in Massachusetts. There have been some talks of a possible third Daddy's Home movie, and Mark Wahlberg has said that he really wants Liam Neeson to make an appearance in that if they ever do one. So when it comes to the film Daddy's Home 2, I really do like this movie. I find it very funny, and the addition of Mel Gibson and John Lithgow do make it great. But I will say there's something about it that doesn't have the exact same magic as the first film, so I'm going to give this one a 3 out of 5. Now, if you did enjoy Daddy's Home 2, other films I recommend checking out are A Bad Mom's Christmas, The Great Outdoors, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, and Christmas with the Cranks. Now it's time for the trivia question from the beginning of this episode. What movie does everyone go to see during the snowstorm at the end of the film? The film they go and see is called Mistletoe, and it's apparently starring Liam Neeson, where he's just a tow truck driver trying to get home to his kids for Christmas and ends up running into terrorists. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Askewed Reviews, and if there's a movie you'd like to see get a review, just mention it in the comments.